Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name's Joanna Murray, and I'm the Head of Research at Development Media International, or DMI. For those of you who might not have heard of us, we're a London-based NGO who run mass media campaigns to change behaviours and improve lives. So, despite significant reductions in child mortality over recent decades, and many countries achieving MDGs 4 and 5, neonatal and child mortality remain a significant global health challenge. 2 in every 3 of the approximate 6 million children who will die each year before the age of 5 could be saved through higher coverage rates of simple, proven health interventions, such as exclusive breastfeeding before the age of 6 months. However, at the moment, many of the coverage rates for many of these proven interventions have stagnated, and there are wide disparities between countries in some of these proven health interventions. So, for example, West Africa often lags behind countries in the east and southern areas of Africa. So many children die because their parents are not adopting some of these quite simple behaviours. And I think that mass media has a role to play here in increasing the demand for these interventions. Mass media has the potential to increase knowledge and understanding about these interventions and to overcome some of the cultural and societal barriers that remain. But the other challenge that we face in solving this problem is that there's actually fairly limited evidence base for the impact of mass media. Now, we all know that in theory, mass media is a fantastic tool for reaching millions of people and driving behavior change at scale, cost effectively. But the actual scientific evidence of its impact is fairly limited. And that's for a variety of reasons. In previous decades, there was underinvestment from donors in monitoring and evaluation of campaigns. But also, many of the impact evaluations that have been carried out have tended to be fairly weak in terms of the study design. So we've often focused on pre and post interventions, pre and post evaluations, for which it's difficult to attribute the measured impact directly to your campaign. There can be many other potential confounders leading to the effects that you measure. Another issue that we've had in the past is quite a reliance on self-reported behaviours. Now, it can be very useful to use surveys to evaluate. However, we all know that self-reported behaviours can also be subject to various biases, recall bias, responder biases. So it's plausible that mass media can have a significant impact on behaviour change, but we don't have very good scientific evidence, and we find ourselves in this kind of vicious cycle whereby policymakers and governments are reluctant to invest real resources in media interventions without a firm evidence base. So at DMI, we had the idea of trying to overcome some of these problems that we've all faced with impact evaluations. We decided that we wanted to overcome the issues of many potential confounders by using the gold standard study design of a cluster randomized controlled trial. And we also decided that we wanted to measure not just knowledge, attitudes, practices, but we wanted to measure a much harder health outcome, more concrete outcome of child mortality. So we engaged in this rather ambitious attempt at a cluster randomized controlled trial. We recruited the help of leading global health epidemiologists at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and we raised funds through the Planet Wheeler Foundation and the Wellcome Trust. And we embarked upon a 3-year cluster randomized controlled trial in Burkina Faso. So we selected Burkina Faso because it's a fairly unique country in terms of its media environment. The national radio and TV stations are fairly weak and broadcast predominantly in French. The highest media penetration is found in local community FM radio stations. And this allowed us to successfully randomize and broadcast in 7 intervention zones without leaking into 7 control zones. So the campaign that we tested it involved broadcasting in 6 different languages on 7 radio stations. We broadcast 60-second radio spots 10 times a day, every day, for 35 months. Each week, we changed the theme of the spots, covering different child health topics. We also had evening shows, which were live dramas acted out by local actors, and there were 2 10 to 15-minute dramas each evening in the weekdays. And this was all produced by a team of over 30 local Burkinabe staff. And then the independent evaluation was led by the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. So what evidence have we generated from this RCT? After 20 months of broadcasting, LSHTM conducted a behavioural survey of mothers, interviewing 5,000 mothers. And you can see up here the chart at the top, the results from this midline survey. So this shows you, for 10 of our key behaviours, the percentage change in each of these behaviours in the intervention zones in blue and in the control zones in red. And one of the key visual points I'd like you to take home from this talk today is take a look in isolation at the behaviour changes we see on those blue bars. When we're conducting just pre, post, or before-after study designs, we're effectively looking at those blue bars alone. We're ignoring the red bars, which is what happened in the control zones. And that tells us what would have happened anyway. In the absence of our intervention, what was going on in Burkina Faso. So what we're really interested in here is the difference in difference, i.e. the percentage changes that we see in the intervention zones minus the percentage changes that we see in the control zones. The chart at the bottom shows the evidence that we found for some positive correlation between the intensity of broadcasting that we did on each message and the impact on behaviour change. So we found that we had most impact on episodic care-seeking behaviours, so telling mothers about the symptoms of fever and pneumonia and diarrhoea and advising them to seek treatment. And we had a regression coefficient there of 0.9. And what that tells us is that there's approximately a 1% increase in behaviour change for every additional week of spot broadcasting that we gave to a given topic. So these are the main midline results. We also, not shown here, we had some evidence from health facility data. And we found in that data, it triangulated what we found in the survey data. We saw an increase in primary care consultations in the intervention arm above and beyond what we saw in the control arm. So these are the midline results. They're published in the journal Global Health Science and Practice. So if you want more information, do look up that paper. We do not yet have complete end-line results, but I hope that we'll be able to come and present those at a subsequent conference. At the moment, the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine are analysing the mortality data, but the preliminary results that we've seen on behaviours have confirmed what we've seen at midline. They've shown that we've seen statistically significant increases in care seeking using health facility data. So finally, what does all of this mean? Well, our RCT provides evidence that mass media alone can drive behaviour change, but it doesn't provide evidence for any old mass media campaign. We followed a specific approach, which we call the saturation plus approach. This approach is really a set of guiding principles. It's not so much a strict methodology. It can be adapted to different contexts. But it's centered around our theory of change and our conviction that what's really important in driving behavior change for mass media campaigns is achieving sufficient intensity of broadcasting. You really need to broadcast at a high frequency to ensure that you reach people and really drive behavior change. The other components are centered around science, which is particularly focusing on improving impact measurement, we've described here. But we know that RCTs are not possible to do everywhere. They're very expensive, they're very time-consuming, they involve an awful lot of hard work, and they're not feasible or practical in most settings. But we can still improve on the evidence that we're generating from all our hard work, all the campaigns that everyone is doing. And we can do that by using quasi-experimental methods. And finally, the last component of our Saturation Plus approach is about stories. It's about using research to help create engaging dramas and really stories that resonate with our target audiences. So my final call to action to everyone here is that if we, as a social and behaviour change communication community, really want for SBCC to become a core component of public health interventions, we need, and we want the policymakers and the governments to really prioritise SBCC, that we need to improve on the impact measurement that we're doing and create a much stronger evidence base.